the 6 most popular videos on this channel about modern pterodactyls. Parts of video number 6, South Carolina. After 4 years, people are still watching this video, yet the percentage that like it is only 82%, compared with the channel average of 99%. Why? It's probably the small text of the subtitles. Okay if you're watching a TV or computer monitor, but not so good if you're on a handheld device. But where else can you get all these details outside this channel on sightings of non-extinct pterosaurs in South Carolina? To see the complete original video, see the link in the description. We begin with a sighting of an apparent pterosaur seen in 1993 in Durham, North Carolina. I now quote the eyewitness, Dane Simmons. Me and 2 of my friends saw one at different times. I was alone driving my car and looked out my sunroof to see what I think was a pterodactyl. Huge bat-like wings, 2 feet in the back, and long pointed beak and back of head. It was so big I could easily make out the features. I estimate the wingspan was like 10 to 15 feet. Also, 2 of my friends were fishing. They said it was huge, 10 to 15 foot wingspan. My sighting has haunted me ever since. I know what I saw. Before getting into the second sighting report of a living pterosaur in North Carolina, please take these shocking encounters in the United States in context with 2 sightings in Cuba. Petty Carson saw a large Ropen at Guantanamo Bay in about 1965, and the U.S. Marine Eskin Kun saw 2 apparent pterodactyls there in 1971. By the way, the Ropen is a long-tailed modern pterosaur, not yet officially acknowledged in Western science as of the end of the year 2018. Many eyewitnesses call this flying creature a pterodactyl, or a prehistoric bird, or a dragon, or a dinosaur bird. My associates in cryptozoology call this shocking animal Ropen. For more information about the 2 sightings in Cuba, see the video The Girl Who Saw a Flying Dinosaur, which is also on this channel, Protect Animal Life. In 2018, I got an email from an eyewitness of 2 apparent pterosaurs in Kernersville. He estimated their wingspan was 18 to 20 feet. That was in about the year of 2003 when the man was working at a Walmart. At about that time, another man and his girlfriend saw what looked like a pterosaur flying over Durham. This was about 10 years after the other sighting in Durham. Here's part of what he told me in his own words. I noticed an object gliding silently from the direction of the freeway, passing overhead. Had a wingspan of 17 to 23 feet. I could see an outline that was more or less triangular. My first instinct was that it was a hang glider, but it was midnight, with nowhere high enough to launch from for miles around. Less than 2 minutes later, it flew back from the direction it had come. We were both astounded. This thing was massive, soundless, triangular, and dark-colored, soaring slowly into the forest at midnight. My girlfriend can back me up on it 100%, and in fact saw it again years later in a nearby part of town. She's a scientist now and not prone to lying about matters of this sort.
I went to turn onto a highway, and as soon as I took a right and started going down the road, I looked up and I saw a large flying creature. And it immediately drew my attention because its wings were not flapping like a bird's would. It was rolling kind of like a stingray in the ocean. So what happened was, as I was traveling north, it appeared over my shoulder in the windshield here of the car, and it was flying in this direction. As it was doing that, I decided to keep an eye on it, and I was so curious as to what it was. So I was going the same direction it was, and it eventually moved over towards a tree line about 100 yards off to my left, and I saw it start to dive, and so I continued to watch it. And it slowly dove down and landed at the end of the tree line. And then when it went to dive down by the tree line, I noticed that there was a long tail with a bulb at the end of it, and I kept double checking to make sure, and I'm like, that has to be a tail. And I started driving back, and when I started driving back, all of a sudden I saw in my rearview mirror this big black creature fly across. I saw it for about half a second. And I tried to make a turn, but the lanes were too short, so I had to do a 3-point turn, but there was a car on the opposite end that was coming. So I had to stop, wait, turn, and then head out. And by that time, it was out of sight. But I did get a good look at it in my rearview mirror. It was, I would say, a little bit smaller than the first one, but I got to see its face good enough. I saw some teeth in its mouth, and I saw a large eye. And I could see that the wings were bent at angles in the front and were curved in the back, and I didn't see any feathers.
Do modern pterosaurs ever attack humans? For most of those flying creatures, never. But beware of the large exceptional ones, those rare pterodactyls that might, on occasion, attack someone somewhere on the planet. This is a memorial for a fisherman who died many years ago on a small island in northern Papua New Guinea. I never met the man. As I understand, he died many years before I was on Umboy Island and many miles to the north. Yet the tragedy of his death may help us come to some kind of understanding that may help us each do something to make this world a better place. Over the past 17 years, I've received hundreds of reports directly from the eyewitnesses themselves, persons who have encountered apparent non-extinct pterosaurs. Only about 1% of those accounts included any indication that would even hint at the possibility that a dinosaur bird or anything like a primitive flying creature was in a mood to harm a human. Stay with me to near the end of this video to get details on a terrifying encounter a teenage girl had with a huge flying creature at night in Virginia.
And then out the back of its head was a crest.
So it was directly overhead before it flew off into the cloud.
Leathery, had the claws on the wings.
I was convinced that there were living pterosaurs in that part of the world. We went and interviewed Harriet, the mother, and heard about her sighting from a very short distance.
I saw something that I had only before witnessed in books. I didn't know there were such creatures at all. But it had a big wingspan. It had a very sharp, long beak. I never saw it open, but a long, narrow beak. I was actually terrified because it was such an unusual thing. And it's the same area that my husband and Steve saw the 3 other ones going down the branch of another river. I could take you there today and I know what I saw.
Were they have feathers, or was it more leathery like?
Had no feathers. If I was to describe it, I would say it was more like maybe snake skin.
Did you see scales, or was it just smooth?
No, it was more smooth than scales, but it had no feathers, no covering like that of any kind.